Okay, so what we're going to take a look at now is adding our own custom directive. Now, we've been using directives all the way through this course, but we've been using the ones from Angular. What we need to take a look at now is creating our own custom directive, and we're going to be creating a structural directive here so that we can not show the admin if the user is not in a specific role. So what we'll do, we'll head back to VS Code and let's close everything at the top. And what we'll do inside our client, inside the app folder, we'll create another new folder, and inside here we're going to specify that this is going to contain directives. And then what we can do, we can open up our terminal. I'll just clear the screen here, and we'll cd upper level and then cd into our new directives folder. And what we're going to do is say ngg, and let's get some help to make sure there's a template available we can use. And we do have one for directive. So what we can do is say ngg and then d for directive, and we're going to call this has-role, and we're going to skip -tests and press return. And this did two things. It created the directive and it also updated our app module. And if we go and take a look at our app module first of all, then directives go inside our declarations inside here. Just like components, this goes in the declarations, and that's what was updated. So our has-role directive. So let's go and take a look at our has-role directive and see what we're starting with. And in this case, not very much, but it does have the directive decorator. And we also have a selector here. Now, the directives that we've been using so far in this course have been things like *ng if or *ng4. And we've also used other directives like BS radio. And those are the selectors we've been using. But in this case, because this is going to be a structural directive, then the selector that we're going to be using is app has role with an asterisk. And this is what we're going to be specifying when we make use of this directive. So how do we actually do this then? Well, we'll need a constructor, which we've got, and we're going to need to inject several things into this. So what we need is the view container ref, and we'll bring in view container ref. And if we look at the description, this represents a container where one or more views can be attached to a component. So we'll make use of this. What we also need is the template ref. So we'll say private template ref, and we'll bring in template ref. And interesting though, there's two versions of this, but they're both identical. So I'm guessing the second one, where it's not double auto imports, is the one we should use. And this represents an embedded template that can be used to instantiate embedded views. Okay. And we need to use this with the view container ref. So that's why we're using both. And remember, the goal of this is to hide or remove or show the admin link here. But we're creating a directive so we can use it anywhere in our application, not just on this specific link. So we're going to be removing or showing an element on the DOM depending on whether or not a user is in a role. And then what we need as well inside here, and we've got an error here, and this requires a type. So to keep things simple, what we'll do with this one is we'll just give it the any type. And then what we'll do is we'll say private account service, and we'll bring in our account service. And let's move this stuff down because it's getting quite busy. And inside our constructor, we need to get access to our current user, and we'll need to go and get this. So what we'll do is we'll say this.account service, and we'll get our current user, and we'll use the pipe, and we'll take 1. So it completes, and then we'll subscribe, and I need to bring in take inside here. And then we'll subscribe, and we'll say user, and we'll add a property in here for our user. So we'll say user of type user, and we'll say list.user equals user. So we'll have access to our user now. Now what we're going to take inside this directive, when the user actually, or when we actually use this, so we're going to specify the selector app has role. But what we want to pass to this is some parameters. And the way that we're going to pass them, we're going to say, ask the user to pass us an array, or more accurately, inside quotes, they're going to pass us an array of which roles the user needs to be in to access whatever we're using this directive on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an input property so that we can get access to those parameters, and we'll call this app_has_role, and this is going to be a type of string array. And what we also want to do in here is access the onInitialization of this as well. So we're going to implement the onInit interface, and then what we'll do is we'll just implement the interface. So what we'll do inside here is, and I'll just add a comment and say we'll clear the view if no roles. So the user doesn't have any roles, then we're just going to clear the container. So what we'll do, we'll just say if this.user.roles, and if they've got no roles, then it's going to be optional. There should be no user that have this, but anyway, we'll check. Or we'll say this.user is equal to null. Then they're not authenticated effectively, so we want to say this.viewContainerRef.clear, and then we return from our directive. And still inside the ng onInit, we'll add another condition, and we'll say if list.user, and we need to use the optional chaining, .roles, and then we'll say sum, and this just determines whether the specified callback function returns true for any element of an array. So what we're going to do is apply a callback function on each element inside the user roles, and we'll say r goes to this.app_has_role, and we're going to check against what we're inputting here, and we're going to say includes, and we're going to say r to represent the role. And then we'll open some curly brackets, and then what we'll do, we'll say this view container ref, and we use the create embedded view, and then we're going to say this.template ref. So if the user does have a role, and let's open up our nav component so I can explain. So if the user has a role that's in that list, then we're going to create this embedded view and use this as its template reference. So we're going to add the admin link if they are in that role. And if they're not in that role, so we'll just add an else condition. Then we're going to say this.viewContainerRef, and we're going to clear it so they do not see the admin link. So then what we can do is we can go back to our nav component and we can actually use this. So what we use, because it's a structural directive, we use the asterisk, and then we say app_has_role. And then we need to pass it the members or the roles that we're going to allow. So in this case, it's going to be admin, add a comma, and then moderator. And that's how we use our new custom directive. So if we go take a look at the browser, then I'm logged in as Bob, and Bob cannot see the admin link. And we've got our root guard, so even if Bob tries to go there directly, still no access because we've got our admin guard on there. So let's log out of Bob and let's log back in again as Lisa, because Lisa is a moderator. So we'll add the password, and when we log in we can see that we get the admin link and Lisa has access to this. So our structural directive works. What we'll take a look at next is we'll take a look at adding some content inside here so that the admin user can manage the users, and we'll take a look at that next.